All right, this was quite a day. Actually, last night, if you guys were watching the previous video, you might have heard a little crinkly sound coming from my lav mic, and that's because it was attached naked to my chest. It was rubbing against my chest hair, and I set it up just to like see exactly what I need to do for like an actual interview the next day, which indicated that it cannot be in contact with any kind of skin whatsoever. And as I was going to sleep last night, actually, so I was not nervous at any point of this trip at all until last night. And when I was going to bed and I had all these thoughts about like, okay, I know that we can mess up video, that's going to be fine, but you can't mess up the audio in a movie. You have to make sure that it's perfect. That's not something that's forgivable. So as I was going to sleep, I was literally like on the cusp of a nightmare. It was the last thought that I had. I was like, God, like the audio is going to be messed up for an interview, right? We're going to have to conduct this interview. It's going to be messed up. And when I woke up, my first thought was about the audio. Very, very uncomfortable sleep. Mm-hmm. But when we arrived, it actually turned out to be just even much better than I could have ever dreamed. Like it's just, the setting was perfect in terms of setting the stage. The interview itself went extremely well. Mm-hmm. The audio after the fact was perfect, and so the guy that we interviewed, he had a really nice reading voice for poetry. He read a bunch of Bruce's stuff. We talked about it, and I think that's how I'm going to conduct the rest of my interviews. We have an interview coming up tomorrow. It's probably going to be a little bit shorter, and then we have maybe another heftier interview coming up on Sunday afternoon. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it feels very like I feel like yesterday then plus today, like the hard part is more or less done. Now we're just going to go through a checklist of everything that we need to capture. Get some of the spots that Bruce would go. Mm-hmm. Just move, keep it moving, move around. Get to what we didn't quite get to yet, but I don't have any more anxiety left. Right, I feel like it peaked in the morning and then it's gone. So yeah. we're good from here.
Well, and you said to me while we were driving over to the church this morning that you had a feeling in your stomach that you haven't had since your school days, because that's how anxious you were.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did my best to reassure you and help you kind of calm down a little bit, because the issues with the mic, I know when we were listening to the audio on your laptop, we were probably as hypercritical of it as you could possibly be, and there was another little feedback sound going on there that we weren't sure whether that was associated with the kind of setting it up underneath a shirt where it would get shirt rustle and or skin contact rustle, or if that was maybe down to your laptop, because you said you've never really edited audio on your laptop. It's always on your nicer desktop setup at home. And we kind of just had to assume that it was somewhat down to the laptop audio and make an effort to just go with that outer lapel mic and hope for the best in a way. We were testing it when we got Larry set up in the balcony and everything. We were chatting on the way home tonight. We don't want to give too much away from here on out about what things are going to look like, and we want there to be kind of some nice surprises for viewers when they see the film. But I will say that we lucked out because he happened to be wearing a black sweatshirt, and so having the external mic, which I was thinking he's gonna have a cream colored shirt on or something, there's just gonna be this obvious mic cord coming off, but it literally is invisible. You can't see it at all unless you were probably super, super scouring for the thing. So that worked out in our favor. And to your point, he gave a very wonderful interview. He's very patient. He gave nice commentary on a range of things, answered all of your questions thoughtfully, read through a number of poems and gave commentary on those as well. So the interview went very, very well. And I said to you earlier today, I think he was also an excellent first subject to have because he was so calm and patient and just a very kind person in general. So he's not someone who's going to give us any grief, really. And he even admitted to being nervous before the interview and everything. I think hopefully we're able to kind of help him immediately get in the flow of things. But anyway, it was a good result in the end, thankfully.
And the church setting as well, I didn't expect it to be as totally empty as it was. So we essentially had the entire place to ourselves. Like,
Really, we did, yeah.
we were just going around taking footage after the interview, just like, all over the place. There was literally the breaker board was open.
Yeah.
With like, the outline of, the blueprint essentially for the church. Was able to, I don't even know if I'm going to use it, but I caught, some images of the breakers and the blueprint. And I mean, there was like a lot going on architecturally, right? It's a very beautiful building. And the fact that, we could be in there in such a way where we're not a distraction, but also there's nothing around distracting us either. Yeah. And in fact, like there was like a little bit of a small distraction, but it's something that could even be put within the film too. Like it's not something like I feel like they're like if you do like a typical like Hollywood type film, like yes, like oh my god, like what do you're saying you want to test this or test that, get out of here. We're actually doing something, but for something like what we're doing, it's just part of the ambient sound. It's part of the ambient atmosphere. It's just part of just the desire to like just go in different directions. Spontaneity, I think, has worked out pretty well here, and just also outside of the church grounds, I found some interesting stuff. I was like, all right, let me just check out like a 2-block radius around, and the fact that it was very windy, right, and you have so many different kinds of vegetation that very much worked, I think, in my favor too. And Joe like finished up with his shooting pretty much when I did. So like he was in the car for like 2 minutes, and I already shut up. And I was thinking like am I taking too long? But it was a perfect first interview, and now like I have absolutely no anxiety about whatever would come next. Right, it's going to be fine. So
I think as far as the audio, we're totally set. I will still admit to a dash of anxiety only because the next 2 interviews are in the subjects' homes, and I'm a little bit concerned about the lighting, and how we're going to be able to arrange things. The church, as we said, the setting is so visually lovely, and it's just interesting, and there's some excellent light coming from some different sources. Someone's home, homes can be, if they don't have a lot of natural light and large windows, they can be sort of cramped and dark and whatever. We'll figure it out. But my mindset going into these next 2 is just where can we find hopefully some decent light, because it's also continuing to be very cloudy out. Yeah. So we're not getting a lot of strong natural light helping us that way, but we'll sort it out. And now that we know that, both cameras worked fine the entire time. We were able to have a good recipe for that. The audio, and we collected, we went overboard on the audio. We had the lav mic, which is going to end up being the main audio track, and it worked out perfectly. But I had my shotgun mic on top of my camera. You had a shotgun mic on top of your camera. We've got all these angles covered. So I think we've got the recipe now.
Yeah. And then afterwards, we decided, because although we're technically like in like the business district here, but there's not really a whole lot of foot traffic in the way that I expected, at least, right? It's technically a downtown, but not the way that I would know, for instance, like any downtown in Manhattan, for example, where, like anywhere that you go, right, you're going to get tons of foot traffic, tons of potentially interesting subjects and people. And so we went to what's called Uptown, which is actually south in Minneapolis, in this Uptown, and tons of alleys, tons of like nice night scenery, and before that, just like also walking around here around the Mississippi River. Yeah, and it was like like 5 p.m. So like if we start getting like a sunset around 6:30 or so, we have that. Like I was capturing a lot of like stuff in the clouds where there were like tons of like nice violet purplish streaks. You had like a lot of perpendicular lines going down. You had parallel lines of different sorts, a nice like quadrants, and just like nice stuff that you could find like what you would expect by a river, right? And Minneapolis has like a ton of construction going on all the time, so there's always a potential for. I mean, I found some today. There's always a potential for like something interesting happening. That I mean, like in New York City, it's a different kind of construction. You're not going to find, for instance, like tunnels being built. You're not going to find this kind of stuff. But here, there's plenty of this. So that's how we started. Then we took the car to Uptown. Again, tons of alleys, tons of like nice night shots, big crowds of people every once in a while. Surreptitious sort of shooting. Right, it's the kind of thing that I really liked. I feel like very much in my element, specifically what we were doing today.
Yeah.
Right, going into the alleys, because like I've never really cared. Like I've always been in these kinds of places my whole life, and I want to capture some of that, and like, do it secretly, right? Do it in a way where people don't notice it. Footage of torsos, footage of legs, footage of feet, people that look interesting to you, and they walk past you, and you get them from behind, and you do like whatever effects that you could do in the moment, capturing that. And I like that because I am we've already established I'm a fairly compact person, so I could get away with doing these kinds of things, whereas Joel, I mean, like, Joel can't even walk down the street without a potential nylon girl smiling at him, right?
Oh boy.
We're always looking for these opportunities going forward. We need models. Okay, we need models.
Well, what I was going to say is it's interesting to me to watch you, pick up on some of the discrete means of filming and grabbing photos, because obviously this is something I've been at for half a decade at this point. And granted, I've told you this before. I've said this probably even during our photography shows on the channel. Street photography proper hasn't really been in my repertoire all that much up until this point. I'm not someone that would be out on the streets in Manhattan or San Francisco and kind of just kind of grabbing these angles, because not that you have to be that way, but the most classic street photography and street photographers you can think of have some of that about them. But you were reminding me a little bit in a way, and I do this now too, where and in this case I'm filming a lot more than taking photographs right now. But you find ways to sort of pretend like the camera isn't on. It's in front of you, and you just you walk along, just minding your own business, looking out as though you were walking. And yet, both of us, I noticed we did this at the same time when I think there was these couple of ladies were walking past us back toward the cinema, and we both had, pressed record, and we're kind of pointing the camera down to grab maybe their feet along the sidewalk. And then as they passed, we both turned at the same time. And it was obvious we were both trying to get the motion of them walking by and then kind of vanishing off into the distance. And I kind of had a wry smile on my face because it's like, Alex is getting it. He's getting it. These are the things you can do. And it even reminds me a little bit of this video of Gary Winogrand, the great street photographer on the street from years ago, where it's kind of a little segment of them filming him at work, and he'll go like stand on a street corner and he'll fiddle with his camera as though he doesn't know what he's doing. He'll make it look like,
I was doing that all tonight.
Did that work? But he's standing there, and literally, if you watch really, really closely, he's so quick with rapid fire and his little Leica in his hands. He takes probably 5 or 6 photographs in that time, but people keep streaming past him and walking by, or he's kind of framing up a shot right behind these people at a crosswalk, and they kind of see him there and do this little slight turnaround, and he kind of like looks around and, did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? And so it's interesting to watch. He's obviously a super seasoned pro, and that always has made me laugh watching him do that. But it's obviously very effective, and you were picking up on some of that with your. Yeah, your techniques. It's interesting to watch.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I feel like doing something like this, you have to have just multiple different kinds of personalities to not only like assuage others, but like show exactly what you're doing. Like, for example, the interview today, right? He's obviously somebody that knew Bruce, and he's obviously very appreciative of the fact that. here somebody's, making a film about his friend, and we're doing it, we're funding it ourselves, right? We're not necessarily under the impression that we're going to make money off. I mean, like, my assumption is that, we're putting the money in and we're not going to get anything back, right? This is just kind of like a sunk cost, essentially, which is fine, right? We're doing it for the sake of the work. And in those kinds of scenarios, just being just like fully, like being persistent, but just fully nice is 100% enough. So, there's no reason for anything else. And then, but in other situations, it's like, you're snapping photos of people and you are wondering, is this like totally ethical, right? Because I personally wouldn't necessarily want to be in somebody's, footage, depending on what they're doing.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, like, honestly, I wouldn't really care, but not everybody has that mentality, right? So you're thinking, and I am trying to, like, sort of, cover, like, even like, getting the feet, getting the torsos. Today when I was like capturing I didn't look at it, so I don't know exactly how it turned out, but I felt it was very nice, like capturing people, like sometimes look down, because, like, I was doing a manual focus today on at night, because just the auto stuff, a lot of it is just too dark. And so, like, a lot of the times, depending on, what scene it is, I look into the camera, then I see immediately it's already like totally out of focus. But that's often a very nice start for a shot. And I'm trying to get, better. But today worked very, like, smoothly, where at the same time, I'm not only zooming out, but also I'm fine tuning the focus simultaneously.
Focus, yeah.
And it's like very, very, I'm doing, the ring, and I'm doing, the other gradient, and it's like, it was very, very smooth this time. Whereas, like, yesterday when I was at the falls, it felt just very, technically difficult, like, just in terms of, like, dexterity with fingers and whatnot.
Yeah, it all takes time. It takes time to.
It's definitely a craft, right? It's definitely a craft in that way.
Yeah. So, I think that we did make the most, no doubt. We finished up at the church, came back here, ate a meal, and then, maybe an hour later, after kind of reorganizing and repacking and just resting for a little bit, we got back out, toward the river, and very, very cold. Temp dropped a bunch throughout the day today. So by the time we were out at the river, with night coming and big wind kicking up and all this, I joked with you, it's the coldest that I've been, and certainly the coldest my hands have been in a very long time. It's giving me my roots are coming back to me with this. And tomorrow, it's going to be even colder still. Maybe the chance of some snow flurries, we'll see. But it felt like a really productive day. And from here, because with Minnehaha Falls and then the church, those kind of felt like two really big pillar pieces that needed to happen. Those are in the bag now. So, from here, it might be a little bit more rapid fire with some of the other locations and stuff that we want to get. But we'll stay aggressive. We'll keep getting after it.
Yeah. Not sure if there is something else to say. Speaking of eating food, one thing that I've been shocked at this trip is how it could be the middle of the day and suddenly Jill's like, God, like I'm so hungry. Like, I got to get home. I got to eat something. And then, like, I was out here, like, literally I find this like little ass tray, right, under the oven, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna put the penne that I made, we're gonna put it on top, we're gonna put the cheese on top, because if you guys know, baked penne, obviously, if you cook it first, but the next day when you bake it, it tastes even better. And I was like, all right, he said he was really hungry. I laid it all out. His plate looked like it was like not touched. Now, we're never going to get through this penne. He says he's so hungry. He literally takes like 4 forkfuls. He's like, oh, I feel good now. And then that's it. Right. So, you could tell he's pretty svelte. That's why that girl smiled at him. Right.
Oh my God.
Walking down.
Well, it's just, it's a different perspective, I suppose, because, from my standpoint, you put a ton of penne on my plate.
We're on a trip. We're going to have to do a little splurging, especially if it's like homemade meals. And it's like, there's like salad. There's so much good stuff.
Yeah, you made a side salad. It's very nice of you. But no, I saw that plate and I was like, at best, I'm getting through half of this.
Yeah.
And I probably got through somewhere between a third and a half. So we do. We have different perspectives on what it means to be really hungry and to take down a lot of food. That's okay. But when I saw how much you were piling on there, I was like, I mean, he's probably going to think that he's going to be insulted practically by how little of this. I mean, I also eat a lot more slowly than you do. We've discovered, but I eat more slowly than almost anybody I've ever known.
Yeah, and more frequently is the thing. I try to just have a couple of meals at most a day.
Yeah, I snack. I've got all my in-betweeners.
Yeah,
I'm guilty of that big time.
Thing. He's like sitting in the car. He's like, I'm so hungry. I want to get home right now and like eat like a nice big lunch. And he's literally like eating in the car as he's saying, we're like 5 minutes away. He's like eating right before the meal.
Oh, absolutely. As Kristen, it's very common. It's probably more often than not that when we begin cooking a meal together, I will get a snack out and I'll eat some snack while we prep the meal.
Yeah.
It's just what I do.
I do that too sometimes, but like you like whip out like the protein bar and
sure.
and go into like something that is like really like actually like filling, right? But I did turn you on the tart cherry. Are you going to start picking up tart cherry juice from now on?
Probably. That stuff is good.
Yeah,
it is good. I enjoy it. Yeah,
it's been very good for sleep. But I feel like tonight though is going to be my first real good night of sleep because I got nothing to worry about now, and it's going to be a nice amount of hours. So
yeah, we're going properly going to bed at the time we intend to tonight because that's the other thing. We ended up being up quite a bit later last night, stressing over the audio, retesting it.
Yeah,
we obviously misrecorded our whole chat anyway, so all these kind of things. But yeah, tonight it's going to be nice. We'll get a proper amount and be well rested. Basically we're halfway. First 2 full days down, 2 more full days to go, and then a little sliver of Monday morning practically before we head back to the airport. So we're right in the thick of it. And it's good.
It's halfway temporally, but it's more than halfway in terms of, I think, sheer physical effort because, and also like the psychological tension of like, is it going to happen? Is it because, now, we one interview down, the 2 other ones are going to be far easier going forward. And, there's going to be no physically daunting day as the first day. And
nothing's going to touch that from here on in. We're also, I think my hunch is that to get to where all we need to get to, it's going to be more car hopping the next couple of days. We've been more walking focused, which is good. And it's kind of needed to be that way. Obviously we both enjoy that, but in terms of like getting the gear where it needs to go and getting to some of these disparate spots around town to really cover the map, it's just going to be how it is. So it'd be less on our backs and more the rental car doing the lifting for us to do the transport. But our first film, day 3, you start feeling like an expert, assuming of course you had, that plan in place, right? This was very carefully planned. We were looking tons of videos. I was practicing with the camera. I was, reading all the audio stuff that I need. Joe had like 10 pages of shots. I only had like 2 pages, but that's because, honestly, like part of the reason why I wasn't so nervous, it was like, Joe's going to do the cinematography. I'm going to do the support camera. What am I going to worry about? I've seen his photos. Like he says, like, oh, I'm not sure. I'm like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Like if it was just me, I would have never done it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So like I needed somebody that was able to do that in the first place. Yeah. Well, and I said this to you on the drive home tonight. I definitely feel like you're coming into your own, maybe a little unexpectedly. With the videography and cinematography and photography,
I can't fall behind. That's the thing. I can't be the weak link in all this. At a bare minimum, it's like, I do expect like Joel's material to be like, maybe like 2/3 of the footage. He has like the bigger cameras, the better equipment, the expertise in it. But, if I'm like scouting out locations, like I'm going to catch like, cause like, like just a small camera, I could be a lot more nimble, right? I could find all these little spots. Whereas, the slower stuff, Joe could handle, as the sort of, like I feel like a lot of the footage that you're getting, that's going to be, there's gonna be like a fulcrum for much of the film. Like, I mean, even the interview, right? Like, you had these, you had the subject centered. That's gonna have to be the primary camera, no matter what, in that kind of a scenario. So, but that support role is fine. I mean, I don't consider myself again like a filmmaker or anything like that. Like I'm here to do the script and to give the structure for much of the film.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, speaking of you feeling like you're compact as a person in general, it has been funny to me because you're also very compact to your point with your camera. It's a really nice, light, small little camera, very discreet, and you're just like a speedboat. Like we get to our location, we finish up some of the main stuff, and we're like, yeah, you want to collect some more? And I'm like, sure. I kind of thought I might go over there. And you're like, well, I'll just go walk around and see what I can find. And boom, like the next time I look, you're nowhere to be found.
Yeah,
you've just cruised.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows I move so fast.
You just cruise on, and I'm like, well, I'll see him when I see him. I'll call him if I really can't find him. But
like so many people, like in my neighborhood, like independently, have come up to me and said, "I see you walking. Why do you go so fast? Why do you cross the street so dangerously?" Even here,
I skipped out on that.
Even like when we're like crossing the street, like I make like a split second decision. Okay, I have to go right now, otherwise the cars are gonna come. Joe hesitates, like he's literally stuck on the street behind. Right, he has to like wait for the, But yeah, I'm very, very, very quick. Right, I just want to get to where I'm going.
Yeah, well, I do too. But the way I feel about that is that you're used to New York City, and New York City drivers are used to New York City pedestrians. People here in the Midwest, I can speak from experience, they're not used to darters. They're not planning on that happening. So I'm extra nervous to just hop out there Frogger style in the middle of traffic. But last night you cut right across some stuff, and I did not follow you, and I felt great about that. But you made it fine, and eventually I made it fine a couple minutes later.
Yeah. So. We should wrap it up here. Get ready for tomorrow's shoot and everything else we got to finish. But thanks for watching. We're figuring this out, and anybody else again that wants to be a filmmaker and is following along, I get the feeling. That's the crazy part. We're the amateurs here, but I get the feeling you'll probably learn a lot more listening to us than you would from the vast majority of so-called professional podcasts on the subject, right? That's the weird part, because you got to get the skeleton down, the blueprint down. Everything else is just, technical gloss, which you could figure out just, watching random videos. Yeah. But we will see you again tomorrow.